All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Green Zone. I'm your host, Sean Redden. As always, apologies for the slight delay. I was a little late getting home from the gym, and it kind of threw my day all out of whack. But all my ducks are in a row now. That being said, let's jump right into this week's action. As always, join the convo. Submit any questions or comments you may have regarding this week's NFL games or some college games if you want. I know I don't go. There's just too many college games for me to go over um, each week here. The show would last way too long. So I just try to get some quick hitters in on the NFL. And if you want my college picks, then obviously the write ups are available every weekend as well over on my Dub Club. No further ado, Thursday night football. I know kickoffs coming up. The Patriots at the Jets. The Jets are a 6.5 point favorite with the over under at 38.5. Now, I I don't really have a play on the side in this one. I don't. I that I don't really have a play. So I don't have a play on the side in this one. The Jets. This could be a situation where the Jets come out and absolutely smash a bad football team that they're much better than. If you look at these two teams' rosters, 1 through 53, the Jets are clearly the better team. But has the Jets shown you anything through the first 2 weeks of the season where you would feel like they would blow a team out and win by a margin? They haven't for me, at least. So I don't feel I'm hard pressed to ever really back the Patriots because I feel like they're kind of playing over their heads so far this year. But I also do not trust the Jets to win a game by margin, at least until they show me that they're able to. So staying away from a side in this one, but I do have a prop that I like. Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions at plus 106 tonight. Hunter Henry there is the Patriots' leading wide receiver. Well, not wide receiver, but receiver. He leads the team in targets with 15, and he leads the team with catches with 10. And I think he could be in line for a big game tonight with the Jets defense going to be missing CJ Mosley in this one as well. And the Jets defense has been pretty good against outside receivers this year, but they have struggled against tight ends. And I think Hunter Henry could be in line for a big game in this one. So I like Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. You can actually grab that at plus 106. The Giants at the Browns. The Browns are a 6.5 point favorite with the over under at 39.5. How the hell could I ever bet on the Giants after that performance last week? They became the first team in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns and not give up a touchdown and still lose the game, all because they refused to add a kicker to their depth chart. So they couldn't kick any extra points. They had known midweek that Graham Gano was dealing with an injury, and they still did not add a kicker to their roster. And it cost them the game, and it cost us our bet last week as we had the Giants money line and should have won that game. It's absolutely insane that they did not win that game all because they refused or not refused, but they couldn't kick extra points because they literally didn't have a kicker on the roster. It's hard to think of their dumber team being in the NFL. So it has to be the Browns or the under or nothing in here. There's no way I'm getting involved in the Giants after what we saw last week. Bears at the Colts. The Colts are a 1.5 point favorite with the over under at 43.5. Now, look, I've been banging the table for this Bears defense for over a year. Their D is the real deal, and they're finally starting to get the love that they deserve. The Colts run defense has been abysmal through 2 weeks, but this Bears O line has not really been able to open up any running lanes and have not shown the ability to put together anything through the air either. The Colts QB Anthony Richardson is a physical specimen, especially when he decides to tuck in and run. But when it comes to actual production, he's been an absolute roller coaster so far this in his career. A lot of Jekyll and Hyde, ups and downs. You don't know what you're going to get from not even just a week to week basis, but a play to play basis with Anthony Richardson. So this game to me looks like a slow ground pound game from both sides. And I think that would lead to an under where the points are going to be at a premium. So I would take the under 43.5 in the Bears Colts. The Texans at the Vikings. The Texans are a 2.5 point favorite with the over under at 45.5. The market made a move when Justin Jefferson was back at practice this week, which I thought was kind of weird because when he was asked in his post game press conference after last game, he said he was completely fine and was going to be good to go. So I don't know why exactly him being back at practice midweek was news or anything movement worthy from the market in this one. But I have upgraded the Vikings since the start of the season. But to me, this line is still a little too much of a move. Getting the Texans at this price is an auto bet for me. You're getting the Texans, who, in my opinion, are one of the most complete teams in the NFL. If you look at it from position to position basis, and you just need them to basically win this game with the line only being 2.5. And the Vikings and Sam Darnold love, I think, cools down this week. I like the Texans to roll here. Love them minus 2.5. The Eagles at the Saints. The Saints are a 2.5 point favorite with the over under at 49.5. I don't know how you could look at the Eagles in this one after what we saw last week. The passing offense looked really stagnant without AJ Brown there to open stuff up. And the Saints offensive line, who I thought was going to be a major issue for them this year, but they came out and held up really well against that Dallas passing attack. Pass rush attack last week. And the Eagles' defense pass rush has not been existent this year, and the middle of the field has been wide open a lot. They're giving up a lot of big plays. I think the over would be a really solid play in this one. Jalen Hurts continues to turn the ball over, which is concerning for this Eagles offense. But he's played some of his best games versus his Dennis Allen defense, and I think they can still score and get us and move the ball here and get us over this total. Um, Over 49.5 would be my play in this one. The Chargers at the Steelers. Pitch Steelers are a 1.5 point favorite with the over under at 35.5. Another game where the under would be the only look I'm taking in this one. The Steelers offense has not been a big play unit, and they just want to have Fields play it safe and try to win it with their defense. And the Chargers are kind of in the same boat. They obviously have a much better quarterback in this one with Justin Herbert, but the lack of playmakers outside make it really hard for them to put up a ton of points, as we saw last week, even versus the lowly Panthers. This number is just ridiculously low at 35.5, but I believe it's priced like that for a reason. And the under 35.5 would be my best look in the Steelers Chargers. The Broncos at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are a 6.5 point favorite with the over under at 40.5. Now, typically, I would love to immediately just sign up and fade a Todd Bowles team laying this many points. But this Broncos offense has just been so bad. Bo Nix, even though he spent what seems like 25 years in college, he looks every bit of a rookie so far. I just can't do it with the Broncos here, even though they're getting almost a full touchdown. The Bucks offense and Baker have been playing at a really high level. It's the Bucks defense where you draw concerns here, but the Broncos offense just doesn't look like they're capable at all of taking advantage of that. And I'm not sure I'll make it to the window with this one, but it would be the Bucks or nothing for me because the Broncos do still have a pretty stingy defense, but the offense has just repeatedly put them in bad positions. I'm not sure I'm going to have a play in this one, but with the way the Broncos offenses looked, it would never be Denver for me. Packers at the Titans. The Titans are a 2.5 point favorite with the over under at 37.5. Now, this is another game like the Vikings game where the market made a move midweek, and that was because Jordan Love was back at practice for the Packers. But I would be very shocked if he plays this week. I believe week 4 is more realistic for him. And the market kind of is telling you that with the Titans. The Titans would not be favored if Jordan Love, if they suspected Jordan Love was going to be under center for the Packers in this one. Willis was not anything above average last week, but the Packers did get it done. But this week they're going to be facing an actual solid run defense, which should put more pressure on Malik Willis to have to throw the ball in this one, which I think is a bad recipe for the Packers offense. And I'm going to be betting the Titans no matter what here. I'll lay the 2.5 if it's going to be Malik Willis. And if Jordan Love is going to be added to the roster and make his comeback here, there's no way that I'm banking on him being 100%. I still think this Packers offense would still be a lot of run heavy, which plays into the favor of the Titans here. And I think the Titans roster overall is a little underrated. They should have obviously beat the Bears week 1. And then last week they were in that game with the Jets, but Will Levis has had multiple plays this year where it looked like he dropped acid right before he said go. And that's the reason why they're sitting at 0-2 instead of potentially being 2-0 and at worst 1-1. But I think they match up really well with this Packers team, especially without Jordan Love because of their ability to stuff the run. And again, the total tells you it's 37.5. They're expecting it to be a low scoring, close game. But I trust this Titans defense, and especially if we're going to have to see more Malik Willis in this one for the Packers. The Panthers at the Raiders. The Raiders are a 5.5 point favorite with the over under at 39.5. Now, the question I've been asking myself all week is, do I have the stomach to bet the Panthers again? We had on week 1, and that lasted for about 45 seconds before you knew it was going to be a loss. They're starting Andy Dalton in this one, which, regardless of how you feel about Andy Dalton, it has to be an upgrade with how Bryce Young has looked so far this season. Antonio Pierce, the Raiders head coach, has said he wants to get back to running the ball more, which, if I was going to bet the Panthers, I would really like because they haven't been able to run the ball at all this year, really. So if you're catching 5.5, you'd want that to be the case. It's never going to be Raiders for me here. I think I'm going to end up on the Panthers. But the question is, can I live with myself betting the Panthers again? But it's never the Raiders here. It's Panthers plus 5.5 or nothing for me. The Dolphins at the Seahawks. The Seahawks are a 4.5 point favorite with the over under at 41.5. Now, look, I've been high on the Seattle defense, and I think they've played pretty well so far this year. But this offensive performance has been underwhelming to say the least. I can't trust them to cover a number above 3 right now, especially versus a defense that has a pulse, like the Dolphins do. And then right now, you have no idea what to expect from the Dolphins offense without Tua out there. They still obviously have dynamic playmakers with Devin Achan, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. But Skylar Thompson looked awful last week when he had to come in. Now, given a full week of practice, knowing he's going to be getting the start, you may see better results, but that's not something that I'm worth putting my money into. I can't back the Seahawks at this number, but I also can't put any stock in what we're going to see from the Dolphins offense in this one. Lions at the Cardinals. The Lions are a 3 point favorite with the over under at 51.5. Now, the Cardinals are another team where the market has upgraded this substantially based on the first 2 weeks. Kyler Murray leads the NFL in EPA per play at 27.4, which is actually pretty nuts. But against the blitz, he's 29th. And the Lions have been a blitz happy team so far this season. And the Cardinals offense is the main reason for their upgrade. Like I said, Kyler's been playing out of his mind. And Marvin Harrison bursted onto the scene last week with 2 touchdowns as well. But their defense is still really bad. I know last week they looked good, but they faced a depleted Rams offense, missing damn near everybody. And the Lions have an enormous advantage here in the trenches. Their O line and defensive line should dominate the Cardinals on both sides of the ball. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball up and down the field here. And I'm not sure the Cardinals are going to be able to match that scoring output. This line is a cheap price for me. The Lions are one of my favorite bets of the week here, -3. The Ravens at the Cowboys. Sorry, the Ravens are a 1.5 point favorite with the over under at 47.5. Look, I've said on the week one show that I'm not as high as everyone else was on the Ravens coming into this season. We bet against them week one in cash. We bet against them last week in cash. And at first glance, this Cowboys D line should be a major mismatch for this Ravens O line. But I also thought the same thing last week versus the Saints, and this Cowboys pass rush did absolutely nothing to disturb Derek Carr in that one. And now they're going to be facing a better quarterback in Lamar Jackson, especially on the ground, where the Cowboys have really struggled this year stopping the run. Kamara obviously went crazy last week. And now you get Lamar running and a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, I'm expecting in this one. And the Cowboys the last couple years have kind of been a simple team for me. If they're playing a bad team, you bet them and you're typically going to cash. If they're betting a team in the top third of the league, you bet against them and you're typically going to cash. It'd be Ravens or nothing for me in this one. I think this Cowboys pass rush has to get it going here. And CeeDee Lamb popped up on the injury report this week. And if CeeDee Lamb can't go, this Cowboys offense does not have a lot of secondary options as to be go-to guys. It's just a lot of mid-level talent. And like I said, I'm not high on the Ravens here, but I think they match up really well. And I think Lamar and Derrick Henry pounding the ball against this Cowboys defense is a bad matchup for them. It would be Ravens -1.5 or nothing. The 49ers at the Rams. The 49ers are a 6.5 point favorite with the over under at 43.5. Now, this is a game I really have no interest in betting, which sucks because in the offseason coming in, like you would have pegged this as one of the most exciting matchups. Two really good offenses and division rivals, but two teams missing so many of their key playmakers. 49ers missing Debo and C-Mac, and then the Rams obviously missing Puka and Cooper Cup. I'm completely okay just staying on the sidelines in this one and hopefully enjoying a good game. Now, Sunday Night Football, we have the Chiefs at the Falcons. The Chiefs are a 3 point favorite with the over under at 46.5. It's Chiefs all the way for me in this one. They are much better set up here than the Eagles were last week. They're going to be without Pacheco, but this offense still should have no problems. I know Atlanta does have a pretty good defense, but this Chiefs offense, I trust Andy Reid. They still have Pat Mahomes. Pacheco, if you're going to lose a guy in this offense, I think Pacheco would be a guy where you'd probably sign up as where like, all right, they're still going to be okay. Because they've just Pacheco was a late round pick. Um, Came in and flourished. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had success in his rookie year. I have no doubts they're going to be able to get production out of Carson Steele, the rookie, and Samaje Perine, the veteran, who I think is going to actually find the end zone this week for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we still get the Kirk Cousins in prime time. I'm not just getting rid of that because the Eagles had an epic collapse. Without the Eagles collapsing like that in the final minute, Kirk Cousins still loses another game in prime time and still does not cover another game in prime time. And I think we're barred from seeing another collapse with a team that's led by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in this one, and Steve Spagnuolo, obviously, as a defensive coordinator. Now, moving on to Monday Night Football, where we get two matchups this week: the Commanders at the Bengals. The Bengals are a 7.5 point favorite with the over under at 46.5. This is an absolute get right spot for this Bengals passing attack, as the Commanders have the worst secondary in the NFL. I mean, we saw Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors just connect over and over again last week. Even though the Commanders got the win, the Giants passing attack had no issues really versus this Commanders secondary, and I expect the Bengals to be even more successful than the Giants were last week. They should be able to hang a big number in this one, but however, I can't trust this Bengals defense, especially when it comes to stopping the run, which the Commanders want to do. They have Brian Robinson, they have Austin Eckler, and then Jaden Daniels, the rookie quarterback for the Commanders, can absolutely move back there as well. I think the Commanders are going to be able to find the end zone enough in this one. I don't know if they're necessarily going to keep it close, but I like the over a lot more than I like either side in this one. I think both offenses are going to be in for a successful night, and the over 46.5 for me is my favorite bet in this one. Now, the last game of the week is the Jaguars at the Bills. The Bills are a 4.5 point favorite with the over under at 45.5. They matched up last year in London where the Jaguars actually won that game outright. And I think the Jags will be live in this game again. It's scary anytime you want to bet against Josh Allen just because he can go full superhero at any time. But this Bills defense just keeps piling up the injuries. They were already lacking talent based on where they were last season, but now they're really challenging their depth as well. The Jags faced a very good defense last week in the Browns. And in week one, they were a Travis Etienne fumble away from probably winning that game. And I think we're feeling a lot different about this Jaguars team if they're sitting at 1-1 as opposed to 0-2. I think they're a little undervalued here, and 4.5 just seems like too much. The wide receivers have dropped a lot of passes, which was also an issue last year for the Jaguars as well. But I think they play the Bills tough and they keep it within this 4.5. As always, you can follow me on X at S Redden Sports, on IG at Red Hot Locks. I update my picks if something changes with injury news or anything like that as Sun leads up to Sunday. So you can follow me on there. And then, as always, subscribe on Dub Club for all my official plays for each week in the NFL and college football. All the links are all over my social media, as I just said. As for Sports on X and Red Hot Locks on IG. If you're watching on Facebook, they're going to be somewhere. I post them every week. So best of luck and let's have a good week.